Today, my name is Josh Van Dyke, and I am the Vice President of Sales in North America at Censhare. And I'm joined by Chris Lehman, who is the Vice President of Solution Architecture at Emmsphere Plus. Chris, why don't you go ahead and say hello and introduce yourself?
Thanks, Josh. Really excited for this webinar. I am with Emmsphere Plus. We are a platinum partner of Censhare. We are also a partner of Workfront and Adobe. So we have been working together with these two tools for the last couple of years to work on this connector, especially with our development partner, MSP in Germany. So personally, I've been working with Censhare for about 10 years now. Started off on the client side, actually, and then worked my way over onto the solution services side. And really excited to show you what this has to do and get some more information out there about this product.
Well, fantastic. Let's tell everybody just a little bit about Censhare and then about the Workfront connector, and then we'll dive into the demo. So for those of you who aren't familiar with Censhare, we've been a pioneer in the DAM and PIM space for over the last 20 years. We're headquartered in Munich, but have a very global presence. We have over 350 clients. We have a very strong partner network across the globe of highly trained subject matter experts. We have a 98% customer retention rate. When organizations come with Censhare, they choose to move forward with Censhare, they stay with Censhare for a very long time, as it's a very future-proof product. A little bit about just the core DAM within Censhare and kind of some of the things that I think make it unique is when users come into the DAM, they're greeted with information that's highly relevant, personalized dashboards with information that's relevant to them. We have very granular rights and permissions. We can get down to the asset level or the workflow step. Whereas most DAMs out there are really just folder-based permissions, so much more granular. We can handle both your work in progress and your archival needs. We have very robust searches that you can easily find assets, reuse assets. You can actually have search within the text of a file of an asset. We can save those searches. We have a direct plugin with Adobe Creative Cloud and Office 365, and we have a patented graph database. Which means that the platform is built on the latest technology, can really create a lot of relationships and context around your assets, and it's much faster. So a little bit about the connector. Chris, tell me a little bit, you guys at Emmsphere and MSP decided, let's build this connector. Why build that Workfront connector to Censhare?
We've noticed that some of our clients are working with both systems, and we can realize that Workfront is one of the best in class for work management and MRM, and Censhare is definitely best in class for DAM, PIM, and CMS. So we wanted to bring those two things together so we can leverage the greatness of both systems together without having to manually go back and forth, which is a lot of the processes that we saw between those today. Try to make it more seamless so that when you do something in one system, it appears in the other and vice versa. And then stopping people from having to download from Censhare, take it to their desktop, upload it into Workfront. We've seen a lot of processes that way. So we're trying to make it a lot easier for people to work, a lot easier for people to see things, and make it just easier for people to stay in their one system so they don't have to hop back and forth, which always makes adoption of a process or a system a lot better.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, if you can stay in your own system that you're used to working in, people are going to love that and definitely adopt it easier. There's some definite benefits, I think, on the Censhare side and the Workfront side. But on the Censhare side, you get to leverage that Workfront resource management, which is significantly, more robust. We have more robust scheduling in the Workfront connector. You can share assets related to tasks, and that seems to be always one of these things that people love because, if you have a bunch of tasks but there's no assets related to it, it's a little bit funky, right? You have to go in between systems. So here you're actually having the tasks, the assets related back to the tasks. And then this ability to internally track the proof process, which I know you'll get into later. But Chris, on the Workfront side, maybe you could tell everybody a little bit more about some of those benefits.
One of the major benefits is that we've built a connector in so that you can actually browse the Censhare system for assets to relate to projects and tasks. And those tasks don't have to be being done in Censhare, but you could find something and pass that along on a totally unrelated Censhare task so that you can use that as storage and not have to just rely on a third-party DAM or something like Dropbox. We also have the ability to sync communication. So if you do an update in Workfront, you can communicate directly with somebody in Censhare and vice versa without having to ever leave the tool. The proofing, so utilizing Proof HQ or Workfront Proof as it's called now, is a much more robust proofing engine that we have within Censhare. So leveraging that and tying that information back and forth is really huge. And then also getting the metadata. So one of the things that people have to do is they'll enter their hours on a task or close out tasks. We're able to grab that information in Workfront without somebody having to jump back and forth, which makes it a lot easier and a lot more beneficial for everybody involved.
Right on. So why don't we talk about what we're going to show them today and then show them what we're going to show them, Chris?
Yep, we're going to be working on a creation of a marketing flyer. Very small part of it because we only have so much time today. So we're going to first start off, create the project request, make some changes within there and get it up to ready, find some assets to relate together, finalize that schedule and send it over to the creative team. Then we're going to go through what the creative sees, how they interact with those tasks, make some communication back and forth, and then finally get into that proofing process a little bit before we end up and answer any questions.
I love it. Let's dive in.
Perfect. I am just going to change some things here and get that up and running. So one thing too, while we're getting this together, is that you have the ability to write questions. So please feel free to ask questions at any time, and we'll be able to either answer that as we go along or at the end, we'll be able to do that.
All right. So it looks like you are in Workfront now.
Yes, just wanted to make sure I had the right screen shared. So here we are as Workfront. I've already logged in, but I'm just going to go back to the home page here. So when you first log in, a little bit brief introduction into Workfront, and then when you get into Censhare, I'll do the same. And if you have any interest in learning more about either one of these tools, please contact us afterwards and we can do a deeper dive. But when we first log in, we're presented with our dashboard. And my dashboard here shows all the late tasks that I have to be working on. But within here, you can make changes to this and see lots of different views. In our menu up in the upper right-hand corner here, we can see a lot of the different modules that are available. I am an admin, so I see everything that's available, but we see everything from projects to resource and calendars. And a lot of these are really powerful for being able to do a lot of your management. So here we can see how many hours people are planned for, how much they've actually done over the time. You can do some workload balancers. You can set up a lot of automations to make sure that your resources are being utilized effectively. You can set up individual calendars, a lot of different reporting. So you can set up anything that's within here can be reported on, exported, and also utilized. We can also then go into our projects, and that's where we're going to spend the most of our time. So here is a list of projects that we have in the system already. Utilizing the Workfront system, we have multiple different ways to create a project. So starting off, we can come over and just create a project by hitting the new project button. Then we can manually enter everything. We could use a project request. So somebody could enter in a request via queue or many different ways within here, or we could use a project from a template. And we're going to use that just to make it a lot easier to bring information in. So we're going to choose our flyer template here. And we can see that this has already been set up with some custom forms and a lot of individual tasks. The custom forms are very important because the way that we control what goes into Censhare from Workfront is based off of custom metadata, And there's really two different ones we have, one at the project level and one at the task level, so that we know what needs to go into Censhare and what doesn't. This gives a lot of flexibility so that you can still continue to use Workfront separate from Censhare and you're not sending everything to Censhare. So within Workfront, we're going to put in a name here and we're going to call this print megalog volume 1. And if you're familiar with the Censhare product, you're familiar with that name. So we can come in, put in the name, the description. We can say create new flyer. And we're able to continue to make other changes. We have it set up so we're starting in a planning status. This allows us to make changes and make updates. And we have many different workflow steps within here. So within Workfront, we have different workflow steps associated with the project and also with the task. These can be customized, and then we can also take that over into Censhare without a problem. We also set our start dates and all their information like that. And then we're going to jump down to our sync setting. So here, by just having this set up for sync project with Censhare to yes, we know that once we're ready, we're going to actually sync this over to Censhare and be able to work within that tool. So we hit create project, and this will then create this within the Workfront system, and we'll actually have it presented to us here. So when we first take a look at this, we have build out the project plan. So that's what we're going to be doing now. So while we're in this planning stage, we can sit here and make changes to it. So we can add different people, different groups. So I'm going to assign the build 3 cover concepts to myself. And then this will also show that we pass along not only the tasks, we also pass along and have a mapping for users and groups, so they can also be used within Censhare too. So it makes it a lot easier for this marketing resource management, because you can have it within Workfront and then also have that mapped over into Censhare. So let's take a look at one of these tasks here too. So if we take a look at this build 3 cover concepts and take a look at the details, we can see that this task also has a sync to Censhare. So again, by just having this metadata here, we know that this is going to go to Censhare, and not every task has to be synced to Censhare. So only the ones that are necessary to be sent are what you need to have in Censhare. So I need to just pop out one more. Okay, here we are. So once we make changes, we can change dates. So within this project plan here, we can see duration of tasks, how many hours within that duration, and also predecessors and successors. One of the things that is allowed by Workfront that isn't allowed by Censhare is to have multiple predecessors and multiple successors. You can also have that from different projects, tie all together into one big project. And we've come up with a different way to solve that within Censhare, which I'll show in a little bit. But as we go along, build out our project plan, make our changes, we can come over here and just sign this off saying like, okay, we're good with our project plan. So we can say, okay, that's done. Now we have this next task of gather assets. So within here, we need to gather some assets as informational purposes to our designers. So I'll jump back into that build cover concepts and choose our documents tab here. First, we can see this add new. And within here, we have a list of different items that have been configured within Workfront. They have a list of different areas from Google Drive, Dropbox, Box. They also have other connectors for other DAMs, especially with AEM. But we can see we have one here that is called From Censhare DAM. And once we click on that, we're actually able to pull in some information.
Yeah. And so now you're going to search for some files here. That's what's happening?
Yeah, we have the ability to either search or just browse in this system here that we have. So I can come in here and just type in Hamburg, and it'll search for what is available, and we can actually see that we have an asset available for us that we can click and add into here. We also have the ability to just browse within here. So one of the way that this normally works is that Workfront is looking for a file system to be attached to, something that you get from AEM or Dropbox, a folder structure. Censhare, obviously based off of that graph database, does not have that. So we built up a fake structure utilizing the Censhare assets to be able to present different assets to it. So we can actually leverage all of the benefits within Censhare with their searches and all the metadata to say, hey, here's what's available Workfront. And any metadata field or any relation that you can search on within Censhare can be used to limit and or show information here within Workfront.
And I can see this being pretty beneficial. You can see all these assets. But like what assets, Chris, are actually made available to the Workfront user?
That's great. I'll just expand on that a little bit more. We have the ability to choose any asset really within the system. So utilizing the search technology and the metadata technology, you could say that we only want to have assets that are in the approval workflow state, or we want to have assets that are a MIME type JPEG that have been approved within the last month. So it is extremely flexible for you to set up this information and to prove and show what is available within Workfront to make it easier for people to know what's there, but you also have that ability to control that on the back end within Censhare.
Okay.
So I'm going to select a couple of assets here. So we can select these 3 assets here, say like these are the ones we want to use. We can hit link. Since we showed already that this is a sync to Censhare task, these assets will actually be linked together to this task in Censhare once we go over there. We can also add in a brand new one if we wanted to. So I can just drag from my desktop here and drop this in here. It's going to then start to process this, and it'll actually go through and make this available again. Not only will it be linked to this task in Censhare, it'll also be created in Censhare, so it's actually there as a brand new asset. And lastly, before we go, I'm just going to add an update to this and just say like, here are some files to use, and hit update. So once we get into Censhare, we'll be able to see this information is there.
All right.
And actually, I missed a step first. So before we did that, what we needed to do is change this from planning to current. So changing this from planning to current allows us to sync those assets together into Censhare. So these will start being created in there. So as part of my build out project plan, I should have flipped that to current to create these assets. Now during gather assets, I would be able to come in here and make those adjustments within here. And I'll just quickly redo that because otherwise they won't show up in there.
Right on.
So as we always say, it is not a demo until something goes wrong.
Well, one of the things I think you said earlier that I really liked and want to make sure everybody caught was that you're choosing which things get synced over to Censhare. And that was one of the questions we seem to get a lot is, is everything going back and forth from Workfront to Censhare? But the answer is no. It's just the things that you choose to have go back and forth to Censhare. And I think that's a really important point for the listeners to understand.
Yes, and that makes it very easy because you're going to have some tasks that are going to be review tasks that aren't going to be done within Censhare. It's going to be done outside of it in a meeting room someplace. And you don't want to have to just sign that off within Censhare saying like, hey, this is ready to go. Just to sign it off to say like, hey, this task is done. Even though we didn't do anything within Censhare, we want to be able to have it so that it's available for people to use.
For sure.
New updates. There we go. So now we're back to where we were. I can hop back over to my project, and then I can come in here and sign off on this gather assets. So that one's also signed off now. And then also the start creative, that's a meeting where we were having. So we just had that with them while we were going through everything. So we can now see that everything is up to date up to this. So let's hop over to Censhare. Before we jump into the task assets and project assets that come over, let's take a look at what is a little look at Censhare. So this is a dashboard. So if you first log into Censhare, you're always presented with a dashboard. You're able to set this up for different users, different roles, to be able to see different widgets and different items within here. Across the top, we have a quick search. So you can just start typing in something and they'll be presented with different options within here. So it makes it real easy to find things. Is one of the benefits about Censhare DAM is it is easy to find assets and reuse them. Beyond the quick search, you also have a detailed search and expert search to allow you to build up very complex search queries. You can create assets. And then along the left-hand side here, we have some different quick actions. We'll obviously jump into the projects in a minute here, but as part of the PIM, you can see all of your products within here. When you're using the CMS, see all of your different content. And then also we have some widgets within media. So we have reports that are showing everything that is available to you within the system. And all of this is highly configurable to everybody. So the next thing we have to do is let's take a look at the projects. So we can see that our print Magalog volume 1 has been synced over here and we have that available to us. And we can open that up and we're going to see the information from the project.
And when I'm looking at this, Chris, this looks like pretty standard Censhare workspace. Is there a lot of customization that needs to be done with the connector itself?
There really is not. We try to make it as simple to install and keep users customized workspaces on their own. So we don't have to we try not to interfere with any of that information. So we only added 2 new asset types, and these 2 new asset types are separate from everything else. So we have customization on top of that. Any other customization at the project level, as you see here, at a traditional task level or anything else, we actually don't affect that at all. We do have the ability to expand some different items. So like if you look at my work, we can add some additional customization within here with changing up the predecessor tasks and successors as we have, or more filtering. But overall, we have it set up that only our new asset types are what we configured. Everything else we didn't touch.
Right on.
So in this project, we can see that we bring over the different fields, the name, obviously, but then also the description is brought into the brief. We have our different statuses here. So the workflows are mapped together so that we have everything here. So current, and if this is changed in Workfront, this will be updated. We also have the ability to use the team. So BA has been set up as the owner of this project. So he's brought over and mapped in. So that's one of the mappings that we have within there. So we have that different information in here. And this can also be this can be expanded to any custom fields that you need. And then from Workfront or within Censhare, and we have a mapping table that we can bring that all together. If we jump over and look at our Gantt chart here, we can actually see all of our assets that we have. Notice that not everything is here. Those couple of things that we closed off are already closed, and we're just working on our new assets here. So whatever is synced to Censhare is what we see. We also see here that these are assigned. So I have this asset assigned to me, and we also have this one assigned to the art directors. So as long as that mapping table is there, all of that information is brought up too. What's great with this too is all of this is managed by Workfront. So if a PM is logged in and they're making changes to the system, we'll actually see those updates come over in almost real time within here. And this view and all the assets will update at that time as well. So
Nice.
You can see these actually started to change here. I think I missed the rest of them, but items will automatically update and be controlled by Workfront. So when changes happen, you're seeing here in near real time.
Perfect.
Yeah. So let's jump in and take a look at one of these tasks and start working on our cover concepts. So this is one of those tasks, one of those assets that I just mentioned, Josh, that are new to the Workfront connector. This one is actually called a task Workfront. We knew that we wanted to use tasks because that is what, Workfront uses and everybody uses, but we didn't want to have to take over the workspace for a task because people are still going to use tasks for other items. So we created a custom Workfront task that has its own different view here. So this first widget is the Workfront task information. So this would be considered the planning information from Workfront, and this is uneditable within the system. So you can see that we have our description, our working duration, and then also our working time. All of that is able to be brought into the system. So the planning information is brought in uneditable, but if that changes in Workfront, will be updated here. The next tab, next widget we have is our actual widget here. So this is what actually we're working on. So when we actually make changes or start the project, this is what can be updated. So we can edit the metadata here, or since we're just starting, we can actually hit the start button, and then we'll actually make some changes in the background. It adds our start time, it flips over the workflow to work in progress, and we have that information here that is up to date. So now we're working on this and we're able to continue to work. While we're working, we can come back in here and we can make other adjustments. We can say like, okay, our completion is at 40%. And we also have the ability to add hours. So while you're working at the end of the day, you can come in here and say like, okay, today I came in and I worked for 1.75 hours. I was doing design, and we can have it select my user within here. So we hit okay. All of this information gets stored as metadata within here. So we're able to see all of that. And as soon as I save this, it'll actually be synced over into Workfront. The saving is an important part. So let's take a look at that quickly in Workfront, just so that you can see the different information. But if we jump into the build 3 cover concepts, we can see that it is now 40% complete. The status has been changed to in progress. And then there's also been an hours log added into here. And if we look at the hours, if my user had a rate associated with it too, this is how you can start really looking at some of your revenue and be able to track a lot of your costs and budget information and different items that way, based off of leveraging Censhare and Workfront all at the same time. Makes it very powerful to get that information.
Very cool.
So then back into Censhare, we're going to also see a couple other widgets. Like I said, the workflow, we can update that here manually, or also if we choose the finish button here, we can also do that. It adds in our end time and then also changes the workflow automatically for us. We can also see our predecessors and successors widget here. So as I mentioned before, we had to do something a little different within within Censhare to pull over the way that Workfront handles the predecessors and successors. Censhare only, especially if you look at this Gantt chart here, only allows you to have one predecessor or one successor. So you're not able to set up a multiple level within here. So to be able to handle this, we handle it as within metadata. So all of this information can be, if you have 3, 4, 5, any of that information can be brought over and shown here. So somebody working on this can say like, hey, if I'm working in my task here, has this one been completed before? Is it ready for me to work? What is after this? So that you have the ability to communicate back and forth as well. We also added in another workflow step here, and I can show that here, that is called ready to start. So every asset is brought over new. When the predecessors are complete within Workfront, then the next task will change over to ready to start. So that's another way for users to know that this task is ready for them to work. And that's all automation back and forth between Workfront and Censhare. So that's all tied together within there. So lastly, we can see our assignments here. And these are those assets that we synced, and the new asset that we brought in, and then also the one that was already from within Censhare. We're able to find all that information here as well.
That's great. So, Chris, quick question here. With the assets that were added from Workfront, will they update with the new versions?
Yes, that is a great question. We have it set up so that if we change the content of one of these assets, so this is the asset that was brought over, it's just still on the first content level here. But if we were to update this with another version of that content, it would then update the version within Workfront as well. So we always keep everything within sync so that no matter what you're looking at and no matter when you're looking at it, all that information is correct. So you don't have to worry about like, okay, do I have the right information here or is it wrong in Censhare? Everything is in sync and you can actually see some of those versionings happening, not only just like you can within Censhare, you can also see that within the Workfront tool.
Right on.
So if we hop over to communication here, we can then see that we have that second comment that I made within here. And the nice thing within this says it came from me. I was the one logged into Workfront. Now I'm also going to be the one logged into Censhare, but I can come in here and start a new trail and say like, should I use all of these assets? So now I posted this. This gets posted as another update into Workfront. So the project manager that's in there can get this information and they can continue to answer this. So it's a way to communicate back and forth. We have the ability to set up notifications with this and other information like that too, so that you know if something's going on, because you could easily go work off somewhere else and come back. But here we can see that our project manager over in Workfront saw my message. They say to use yes, please. So we can continue a threaded conversation like this or do new information. So it makes it very easy to communicate back and forth, staying within my Censhare tool without having to hop over into Workfront or anywhere else, so that we're able to do that. And since we're mapping the people back and forth, we have it set up so that you actually know who's making that communication. And there's a new thread. So very powerful to make communication from the designer and then the project managers back and forth that way. So now that we have all of our information, I'm able to sit here and do my work within InDesign, make my 3 concepts, and everything is ready to go. That's not what this demo is about at all. So we're just going to grab it from within the system here. So I have my PDF of my information that I have. So I can assign that to here. And then same with that, I can also assign the InDesign file and have that associated with this. InDesign is not a file type that Workfront will recognize. So it's not going to be synced to Workfront, but it's something that we can still keep together with this task. So as we go along the line on this project, we can still see where that is and continue to work on it that way. So the workflow is extremely flexible and completely up to the users on how it's going to work. So now that we have this, we can hop back over into our Workfront tool, and I'm just going to choose the task here that we have with our documents. So here we have our cover that is synced together. Due to the time that it takes Workfront to process a preview, to process a proof, I've already did this earlier so that we have this available to us. But within Workfront proof, you have the ability to do a simple proof process, which is what I'm doing, where it just basically kicks off a proofing process, or you can do an advanced proofing process, which allows you to set up either multiple review sessions or a way that, okay, this group does it first, second, third, fourth, and you can do it very complex. And all of this can be kept and reused as part of a template within here. So we have a very simple setup within here, and I can actually choose open proof. When I choose the open proof within here, it's going to open up into Workfront proof, and we have the ability to add comments and other information. So I could click add comment, and this gives us some more of those advanced features I was talking about before that Workfront proof has. So we have the ability to like draw shapes. We can like make a little circle here, and we can add our comment and just say like, please move. And we can do other items like do arrows, lines, text. My favorite part about it is the fact that you can actually select text within here and make adjustments that the designer is able to see. So we can actually change different items. So we can say, let's just delete this out of here, and we can hit post. So we have another comment, and all this information is available then to be gone through. And we can see we have different pages, and right away we have the ability to see where our proof is, and we can make adjustments to it. If we had a proofing cadence as part of that workflow, we could also do approvals or denials within here too. And now if we go back into Workfront, we're going to see a couple of different items that are highlighted here. We can see these different pieces here. You can see like this has an S, O, and C. The S means sent, the O means opened, the C means comment, so that when it's greened in like this, you can see that those have been used. That's important because we mimic this within Workfront then too. So as a designer, if I'm not part of the proofing process, I don't necessarily want to be going into Workfront proof, seeing where is it coming back, where is it coming back. We have it set up so that we build up another asset type within here. So we look at our proof and we look at our details, we're going to then see we have a proof order asset. And this proof order asset allows us to get that information into here associated together. So we have the relationship here, and then we have that same information looking at this. So we see that this has been sent, it's been opened, and it has been commented on, but there isn't a decision yet. And we also have the decision pending. Since this is just a one-stage proof, we're able to see this really easily. And then who's the one making the information, we can see that as well. So if there's multiple people on this, you're able to see, okay, why hasn't Josh made a comment yet, or what's going on? So you can make those communication back and forth, either within here or outside of the tool. We also have the ability now to be able to see this actual information right here within Censhare, so that you can take a look. You can click on here and say like, okay, we want to delete Gallo. And we can also take a look and see like, we want to then move this information around. Having this open, we could be working directly with InDesign and seeing all this information, making our changes, our updates, and continuing to move on down along the process. So as we can just keep closing out these tasks as one after one until we get our final print flyer done, allowing the designers to stay within Censhare without ever having to log into Workfront, project managers to stay within Workfront and gather all of that information from Censhare, again, without having to go into Censhare.
Yeah, so they're not jumping in between systems back and forth, creating more and more work. I'm sure people love that.
Exactly. That was one of the biggest benefits. We don't have duplicate work where you're having to download and upload assets. Everything's tied together, and it makes it a lot easier for people to work.
Chris, there's a lot here. I've seen a lot of companies advertise that they have different plugins to different third-party systems. And when you look at the plugin, there's just not much there. So you can tell that, the MSP and Emmsphere team have put a lot of effort and thought into this and how people actually work within it. It's been really, really valuable.
Yeah, it's something that we spent a lot of time working on. What are the cases? What is it going to be most beneficial? Because I know that some of the plugins that you have, you get some metadata associated with it. But we actually wanted to be able to take those tasks and make it so that instead of recreating that, everybody that we talk to, well, not everybody, but the majority of people we talk to in Censhare, they want to have a more robust scheduling platform. So utilizing Workfront to get that information in was probably one of the best ways that we found to be able to do that.
Yeah, that's massive. So we've got a couple of questions in the chat. I think now would probably be a good time to address some of those. And for those on the webinar, if you want to continue to type any other questions in the chat, we can go ahead and answer those as we have a few extra minutes. First one's a little bit more technical. Can you explain how the systems are connected?
Yeah. We did a lot of research on this, and we know that some of the other connections that are out there or integrations utilize Workfront Fusion. And we looked into that a little bit, but it also is a little cost prohibitive, that we didn't want to have to require a client to also get Fusion if they didn't have it already. So we're actually utilizing the Workfront API and then the Censhare APIs to get them to talk back and forth from event calls and webhooks. So Workfront can send out a call, Censhare is listening for that, gets the information, and then knows that they have to go and pull the information to pull it in. As you can see, there is a little delay, but I mean, a second or two, which is pretty quick for going back and forth between these systems for when something gets called and then pulled in. So we're very happy with the performance that we have here and the ability to get this information back and forth, utilizing the standard API plugin, the APIs that are there, without having to add on to additional costs that you have to get Workfront Fusion or anything else like that.
Right on. Oh, that's a smart idea. Another question we got was, how flexible is the solution to meet the way my company works? I know everybody thinks we are very unique, so maybe you could address that, Chris.
Yeah, everybody has something a little different. So as I showed some of those workflow steps on the planning side, or the task side, everything can be a little different. So we have it set up that there's mapping tables. So what is in Workfront, what is in Censhare? And we go through the first process that we do when we sit down with a new customer is go, okay, what does your Workfront system look like? What is your Censhare? How do you want to map those together so that we can get that information in? And it is just mapping tables. So you need to know a little bit about it, but we can train some admins easily to add to it, for features added to it, or if you want to change workflows going forward, adding users, all of that information is easily able to be set up within these tables so that you can keep it up to date and then also make changes on your own, so you don't necessarily have to rely on us. We try to keep it all configurable so that we don't have to worry about changing code or anything like that, so that the end users are actually able to manage it down the line on their own.
Right on, right on. I don't have to see a bunch of other questions, but I know people will have other questions. And if they want to go ahead and reach out to you and ask more specific questions, how would they go ahead and do that?
Yeah, so we have the ability, if you want to contact us for sales information, please reach out to hello@emmsphereplus.com. That'll get you connected with our sales team. If you have other technical questions, you want to see another demo, want to know more just about Workfront services or Censhare services that we offer, please feel free to reach out to me. And if you have questions about just general Censhare, please reach out to Josh. And if you want a demo on either one of these products, to reach out to us and we'll get something scheduled for you.
I know we covered a lot of ground and we did it pretty quick. And so, Rana, thank you for the demo today. I'm sure everybody on the call really appreciates it as well. And if they have any questions, they can reach directly out to you. And thank you all for attending the webinar today. And we wish you a great day. Chris, any final words?
No, perfect. Thank you for the time. Thank you for putting this all together. And we look forward to any other questions or talking to you about future projects.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.